I've spent over 80 hours in Undertale since its release back in 2015. It's one of those rare games I gravitate back to, and despite being a decade old, the game still has a massive following. Even earlier this year, the game hit a record of over 11,000 concurrent players, its all-time high. In that time, I've done it all. The pacifist run, true pacifist, neutral, hard mode, but there is one door that I've never opened, the Genocide route. And before you think that's because I'm a good person who wouldn't go around killing the characters that I've grown attached to, you would be wrong. The truth is, I've tried, multiple times, and every time Sans used my hopes and dreams to mop the floor. Clearly, I have a masochistic streak. I blame growing up on League of Legends. Nothing else prepares you for this level of self-inflicted psychological damage. So, I decided to try again. I wake up in the ruins. Since I've attempted a genocide route before, Flowey recognizes me and instead of his usual tutorial on friendliness palettes, he skips the act and tells me to finish what I started. I then met the ruins' resident mum, Toriel. She's sweet, she begs you pie, and she wants to protect me, which is cute considering I'm about to turn this timeline into a war crime speedrun. Also, quick side note, I just realized Toriel has a mouth. I always thought that line was her nose. Toriel guides me to my first training dummy, which I absolutely decimate it before she nervously leaves me alone with nothing but a cell phone. I encounter a frogget who defies the laws of nature by meowing. Meow. After pondering the existence of the strange blinking eyes in its chest, I dispatch it. Then I come across a bowl of candy. The sign says take 1, so I take 3. I really have to get into the mindset of being the worst person alive to make this run work. The main difference in Genocide mode compared to the others is that you can't just move on to the next area. You just have to circle around until you kill every single monster in the room, until finally, nobody came. I quickly grab the toy knife and head to Toriel's house where I do what any rational person would. I raid the fridge. She keeps a chocolate bar in there, which I didn't realize was a controversial opinion. And I check her scandalous sock drawer, which becomes even more scandalous when you realize she doesn't even wear socks. I get some rest, steal the cinnamon butterscotch pie slice, and demand to leave. She tries to distract me with snail facts, but I finish the tutorial and make my way into the underground. This is usually where the game starts to feel cozy with all of Sans' puns, but I manage to make it uncomfortable immediately, deciding not to hide behind the conveniently shaped lamp, and instead, having a staring competition with Papyrus. Normally Papyrus sets up puzzles and challenges me to spaghetti-related duels, but this time the puzzles don't matter and I walk straight through. I move to the next area with the only goal of wiping the area clean. Bless a dog. Gone before it even gets a chance to stretch its neck to ridiculous lengths. Ice Cap. Usually it whines about how nobody appreciates its hat. And you know what? That hat. Chilldrake, who is literally just Snowdrake but with emotional baggage and a sound cloud. The snowman. He asked me to take a piece of him to see the world, so of course I take as many pieces as possible, leaving him as a pile of mush. The OGE daters Dogami and Dogorissa. They would definitely have matching names on Valorant, until finally, nobody came. The next puzzle is a word search made by Sans. I actually decided to do this one. Sans seems satisfied and says I can't be all that bad, which seems weird considering he knows that I'm gonna kill his brother. I also rob a local business, taking all their money and a manly bandana. Fighting Papyrus is like drop kicking a golden retriever. He stands there believing in me that I can change. I get why people struggle to continue the route after this. With Papyrus gone, the tone gets heavier. I enter the waterfall and immediately swap my manly bandana for a tutu, because if I'm gonna murder everyone, I want to be a pretty ballerina while I do it. Plus, the stats are oddly better. It's not long before I encounter my next set of monsters. Aaron, the self-absorbed seahorse, Moldsmall, the awkward slimy creature, and Washua, whose entire existence is being obsessed with cleaning. In this area, I started to encounter 2 creatures per battle instead of 1, which made it a lot less time consuming to clear the area. I also found a pair of ballet shoes, completing my ballerina look. Despite the fact that we are underground, it starts to rain. I grab an umbrella and let Monster Kid tag along since they don't have one of their own. Monster Kid talks to me about their admiration for Undyne, a royal guard who is tasked with taking out bad guys, and bringing any humans to King Asgore, who needs one more human soul to break the barrier between the underworld and the surface. I step on Monster Kid's face to climb a ledge to the next area. Undyne makes a dramatic appearance, throwing spears from below to pierce me. At the end of the bridge, she cuts off the path, leaving me to fall into a junk pile. She basically sets me free there instead of killing me, but I won't complain. While leaving the junk pile, a mad dummy suddenly comes to life, yelling at me for killing his cousin. However, the unbridled rage that he feels now causes his ghost to bind with the dummy, finally making him feel happy and free for the first time, despite the fact that his cousin actually died, but okay. I don't feel bad about killing him though. You do not understand the agony I went through defeating this dummy in pacifist mode. I take a quick detour to Temmie village, mostly to see if I still could, and to scam Temmie by selling my tough gloves to pay for her college. And then, finally, the first real fight. I encounter Monster Kid on the bridge. I strike them down, but Undyne steps in and takes a blow before having her 90s anime protagonist moment. She transforms into Undyne the Undying. Now, I fought Undyne countless times in my previous attempts at the Genocide route, so naturally you would think that I would have this down pat. Unfortunately, I do not. My first few attempts were a study in humility, and by attempt 6 I still wasn't even getting past the opening attacks. It's basically Dance Dance Revolution for people who hate themselves. And can we talk about the attack with the rotating spears? I hate it with every fibre of my being. My hands were literally sweating trying to dodge these. But finally, on attempt 9, with the cinnamon butterscotch pie slice still intact, I struck her down. She melts away with a smile, knowing Elphys has evacuated the rest of the world. The next area, the Hotlands, is a slog with 40 monsters to kill. I raid Elphys' fridge for instant noodles and scare off Mettaton. You would think that since Elphys evacuated everyone, I wouldn't have any monsters to kill, but I still managed to run into Pyrope, which I have to admit I still don't know how his attacks work. What are you aiming at? And a love-struck tsundere plane who tries to flirt by crashing a commercial airliner into my face. Not sure what the end goal was there. I pick up the burnt pan and start to make my way out of the core into Muffet's lair. I honestly wish Muffet actually had a fight in Genocide mode. She was my favourite battle and pacifist. Finally, I make my way to MTT Resort, stopping in a side alley to steal a cowboy hat and an empty gun. Then I stack up on legendary heroes and a Mettaton face-shaped steak from Burger Pants. He's the only one left because Mettaton refused to let him evacuate. Apparently, the impending apocalypse isn't a valid excuse to call in sick. I reach the core and Mettaton appears. He gives a monologue, transforms into this high-power human-killing weapon. The music swells, and I one-shot him. I reach Asgore's house, the same as Toriel's but without any colour. In one of the rooms is 2 presents, with the real knife and a locket. However, since I'm about to fight Sans, defense doesn't matter against him. He does 1 damage, but he does it every single frame. I picked up the keys to unlock the door before realising that I had missed the clouded glasses, so I backtrack. I walk all the way back through the core and the Hotlands to the waterfall. Now it sounds stupid to bring low level gear to the final boss, but the clouded glasses increase your invincibility frames and slow down the poison damage that Sans inflicts, paired with the burnt pan which increases your healing, and I have one of the best setups. Finally, I step into the judgment hall. Sans says kids like you should be burning in hell, and that's exactly how I feel after his first attack. Even though I knew it was coming, I still lost my entire health bar. The Sans fight is designed by a sadist. Attempts 1 through 5 were just a blur of me trying to understand what was even happening on my screen. By attempt 10, Sans told me I'd hit the big 1-0. I guess dying 10 times unlocks a free membership to an existential crisis. At this point, his intro dialogue was starting to drive me insane, but I was too terrified to skip it and lose my hand placement on the keyboard. Eventually I started to memorize the patterns of the first phase, but that just meant I lived long enough to get destroyed by the second phase. Specifically, the bones that attack you inside the menu box while you're trying to heal. On attempt 14, I didn't get hit by his first move for the very first time, which is somehow one of the hardest moves to dodge even though I know it's coming. Except I got too cocky and died a few seconds later. My 20th attempt was the turning point. I made it to the very last attack, right before the end of it, before dying. But this left me feeling more determined, and my next 6 attempts ended the exact same way. But finally, after 26 deaths to a skeleton wearing slippers, I managed to survive his final attack and wait for him to fall asleep. I push the box, attack him, and strike him down. He walks off screen, dying, and asks Papyrus if he wanted anything from Grillby's, which made my heart physically hurt. But I didn't come this far to grow conscious now. I enter the throne room, meeting Asgore, who offers me a cup of tea as if I haven't just killed his entire town. I kill him, and then Flowey, who tries to befriend me before meeting Kara, the first human who fell into the underground. She asks me to eradicate the world with her, to which I decline, officially ending my genocide run.